Right. Well, still have some people logging in, but it is 3 o'clock East Coast time, so we'll go ahead and get things started. Um, so I'm Phil Williams, here with Tri-Merit. Many of you maybe used to see Randy Crabtree in the seat, getting things kicked off, giving an overview, kind of moderating the discussion. I'm sitting in for him today. I also have Dave Shereda with me, who is the head of Tri-Merit's renewable energy tax credit team, also a subject matter expert on 45L credits. So he'll be covering a lot of the subject matter as we go through it today. So want to go through, do a short intro, and then give you an overview of what we're going to go through today. So to start out, again, Phil Williams and Dave Shereda at Tri-Merit. Tri-Merit, give you a little bit of background. We're a full-service specialty tax fund, meaning that if you have a credit or incentive which is rooted in or involved in an engineering discipline, we're here to help you. So we're made up of CPAs, attorneys, and engineers, all of whom specialize in one of four to be able to bring all of that together in a cohesive manner to be a good consultant. So to give you a little bit of background on us, we've been around since 2007. So we just celebrated our 17th anniversary. Company is headquartered out of Arlington Heights, Illinois, in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. But we are fully distributed. We have employees and subject matter experts working from coast to coast on various incentives. Those incentives, just to take a few moments, we started out as a research and development tax credit firm, and it grown significantly from there to now include cost segregation, as well as a number of energy incentives. So Section 179D deductions, Section 4 credits, the topic of today's discussion, as well as some of the renewable energy credits that are available under the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed back in. So we have a mission, and it's not just something that we really try to impart in all levels of business, but it's to make the specialty tax world better by providing services. And that right way, it means see for our clients, to the clients. We want anything that we put out there. This may seem obvious, but we want anything that we put out there to be fully defensible and be something that our clients can rely upon when they're encouraged to do so. So as we go through today, ask questions. The reason why I wanted to go through this topic was that there were some significant changes to 45L, which were made in 2022, and they went into effect for tax year 2023. And what we're finding is these credits can have a lot more value. It can be a lot more lucrative if the developers and the builders that are taking advantage of them know how to build everything from different actually criteria, which they've seen for all of us. But a lot of the work that needs to be done before a building is complete. Prior to 2023, you could build a residential, multi-family residential structure and all up and speed, go and do the inspections and not. The things have changed and needs to look at it a little bit differently. There's also additional elements like prevailing wage that need to be taken into account when you're planning for a project, whether or not that makes sense, whether it's something that is already being met and it just has to be certain record keeping, which is performed. There's more moving parts. Now with the additional requirements, there's also potentially a larger benefit. But all of that needs to be considered beforehand in order to make sure that we are met. So to take you through a quick agenda for everything that we're going to cover today. So we're going to go through processing this advice, 45L history and energy efficiency, an overview on the 45L, so what it encompasses and what it covers, the basics of the credit, the credit and qualifications, and then get into the new energy efficiency rates. And so that these are now required under Energy Star after January 1st, 2023. And then lastly, how we call it partnering. A lot of you may be here seeking CPE, so the requirements, and run into the webinar housekeeping. For the CPE, you need to stay logged on for at least 50 minutes and answer at least 3 or 4 polling questions. Every 10 or 15 minutes, there will be a polling question Answer that, and then so long as you meet those requirements, then certificates will be emailed out within about a week. Check spam folders. Oftentimes those get routed to a spam or to a junk folder. So if you don't see them, check that folder to get the CPE certificate. We'll also send the swap out to the email address that was on record with the event. The recording will be available on our YouTube channel, probably as early as later today. And as I mentioned earlier, ask questions. If there's some doing a lot of the presenting, I'll be in the background. I can answer some of those questions, or if it's beyond my knowledge base, we can take it offline after having some channel discussion. So that covers everything from an introductory perspective. I'm going to hand it off to Dave Shereda. Again, Dave leads our 45-hour practice, renewable energy practice. And so, Dave, take it from here.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate it. For the record, I think Randy does have a little more energy and enthusiasm, but maybe next time pick it up a little bit. All right. So let's jump into the 45L credit. Thanks for covering the agenda. Starting off with some history and some of the basics of 45L, how it came about, and where we are today. So, contrary to some folks' understanding, this credit has been around for quite a while. Going on 20 years, 17, 18 years now. It was originally put in place in 2005, and it had a life of 2 years at the time, 2006 and 2007. But then through retroactive reinstatements or some extensions, it's been continuously available. It has had a rocky road, so it's been difficult to tax plan in prep for 45L because at the conclusion of whatever session we were in, it uncertain whether still have like it. So it's had a rocky road, but it's essentially been available through in 2006. Now the game changed a little bit. Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, probably or seeing in the future. So the IRA, we're talking about inflation reduction. Last year, 45 gave us. So we're gonna expand on that. But this essentially opened the door for planning. It's not part of the permanent tax code, but it's got life through 2022. Thanks, or 2032, sorry, thanks to the IRA. And it has some increased value. Phil alluded to this. There's now more incentive to pursue the 45L credit than there was in the, maybe even make changes to your processes because of 45L, because of the, so let's go a little further on that. So the intention of 45L was and still is to incentivize energy efficiency in residential construction and promote better building. Well, we'll explain in a second what we mean by energy efficiency, because that's going to come up pretty consistently for the balance of this discussion. It's about energy efficiency. And so for 17 years, as 45L existed, the energy efficiency threshold was consistent. So from inception until the IRA changed the game, the rules for qualification did not change. What the IRA did is not only bring some stricter requirements or increased energy efficiency requirements, they brought in some programs that have been currently available, but now they've put it in incentive. So the Energy Star program and the Zero Energy. So these become our energy efficiency standards for qualification under, and we'll get into. But this marks a pretty big change in how 45L had been administered and had been thought of, because for the balance of, or for the life of 45L, the requirements to qualify had not changed, and they do coming into 2023. Properties sold and leased in 2023. So it's worth noting that these are, now you have two additional agencies that are participating. That the IRS was pretty much the governing group of 45L, but they enlisted the support of the Energy Star program, which is sponsored or essentially administered by the EPA, and the Zero Energy Ready Home program, which is through the Department of Energy. So three three-letter acronyms to throw in the mix. So obviously nothing can go wrong. He's facilitating protection. So we've got that too. Energy efficiency. So let's do some basic. This is, I wouldn't even call this energy efficiency 101, but 001, right? In context for residential construction, energy efficiency is about reducing the energy. So this is the things that are heating, cooling, your own household appliances, things like that. The energy consumed in heating, cooling, lighting, or other function. Simple as that. Energy efficiency is going to be the measure of how we do that against the norm. Yes. Back in 2005, when this got put in place, we got a lot of other energy-related incentives were kicked off at that time. 179D, notable one that was part of the same act. And the reason for this, for 45L specifically, is the residential sector is amongst the top energy consumer of the country. Say it's the second to third on a regular basis. That depends on the time of year and the location in the country. Or time of year, the season is really going to drive you from second to third, but it essentially is one of the largest energy consumers. And the focus on reducing the energy required to support the residential sector is why 45Ls. And so here's one more important note about energy efficiency as it relates to 45L is you cannot offset poor performance with energy generation. So simply what that means by putting solar panels on your property to reduce your cost of ownership and reduce your impact on the energy consumed, 45L cannot take in consideration your energy generated to offset your usage. It's still going to be about the performance of the structure or of the multifamily building or the single family home. So how does that home or unit perform on its own, regardless of anything that's being generated outside? So that's a general misunderstanding that just because you put in some energy generation device, you're able to offset your score and essentially score higher. It is not. So with that, we're quarter of the way in. Let's drop a full question in before we get into the details of 45L. Mark, can you pop the full question up for the group? It is, have you received or prepared or facilitated 45L credit? So have you all been involved? I think we'll give you a minute or two. Simple yes, no question, softball question to start out with. Have you received or prepared or facilitated 45L credit? And we will see what we got here. Am I getting the right button? Okay. So we're still getting some responses in. They're rolling in. We're looking at more no's than yeses at this point. I think we'll give you a few more moments to answer. Looks like 37-63, 37% yes. The others no. Okay.
Well, so to take a quick time out there. So that's interesting. And it's something that I've seen, which has actually been interesting. It feels like this incentive has never been broadcast. It's never been trumpeted. It seems like there's people that are in this space that you would think would know about this credit and be taking advantage, but for whatever reason, just happened. You see the same thing? Yeah, absolutely. I think the on-end, off-end availability of the credit on the early years of availability, we were able to really in there. And so instead of sort of saying what would it be qualified for 45 so I take it born on not it, but it was education and availability. You can so, but generally we're finding folks quite often that that have not heard of 45L that are very well in the industry, that have been in the industry for many years, and are just starting to explore it. Yeah. Thanks.
So let's jump into some of the basics. So we're going to talk a bit about what's changed for 45L, but these are things that haven't changed from the onset of this credit and all the way through its current structure under the IRA. So these are the basics for 45L. It is a general business, and it is available to develop. So a developer is essentially the ones that have to have ownership in the process from construction to sale or lease. So when there's a requirement to have an exchange from that developer to a third party for that to be used as a resident. So essentially what's that putting in place is you couldn't develop a multifamily building and sell it before you filled it up. So you would have to sell each individual unit, and the year or the tax year in which those units are leased or sold is the year in which you can claim the 40 credit. So that's an important distinguisher. It's not placed in service, like many incentives that are asset-based in the energy world. It does not revolve around when the building was placed in service for operation. It is when the qualifying units were sold or leased for use as a resident. Important factor. That has also not changed. It has always been the rule. Again, maybe not a well-known rule, but it gets confusing with the other energy and stuff. New construction or significant remodel. So it can be either one. The rules are the same. The efficiency requirements are the same. But what I'll tell you is it's got to be a pretty substantial remodel. Facelifts, for lack of better terms, are generally not going to qualify because you haven't done enough improvement to the building envelope or to the mechanical systems in many cases to qualify. But if you're doing a remodel or new construction, both are eligible. There's always a requirement for an qualified independent third party to certify. In the past, it was against the standard, which we'll speak to, of an old 2006 IECC standard. Today, those standards, as we introduced, are the Energy Star program and the Zero Energy Rating program. The requirement to have an independent third party had not changed. And will add at least an on-site inspection required. Still is. And we'll talk a little bit more on that because it has changed a little bit. The extent is available for open tax years. This is available to men. Still is. Just depending on when the property was sold or leased, which on the energy state or he was qualified for to make a credit. And we will jump into that. So there's two distinct change happened in 2023. So we're going to talk about the way the program is. We won't dwell on this part, but 45L as it existed from 2006 to 2022 was a $2,000 per unit credit. This was based on the energy modeling, and the target was to consume less than 50% of the energy to a comparable dwelling unit, to a 2006 building standard. So that 2006 building standard had not changed for the life of 45L until the IRA came in. So that meant regardless of technology improvements, the standard remained consistent. And so that's how it was. And it was a $2,000 flat credit per unit. Single family homes, condos, duplexes, all applied, but you had a limit to the height of multi. So it could only be 3 stories or less. For some of you folks in the Texas world that understand, this was the difference between a low rise and then you got into mid rise or high rise dwelling. When you got into mid and high rise dwellings, other incentives would kick in where 45L left. So 179D, for example, would be available for multifamily greater than 3 stories. So there was a distinguishing line between the incentives. So this is what 45L that most of us have been accustomed to for the last 15, 17 years. 2023 and forward through 2032. Now the credit's up to $5,000 per year. Now there's going to be some caveats we're going to talk about, but essentially this is the impact of the IRA, which when we alluded to the fact that maybe this new incentives or the increased incentives gave you another reason to evaluate construction techniques to maybe look at pursuing 45L, it was because of this thing. at $5,000 per unit, does it make it worthwhile to pursue the energy efficient homes, and maybe change your practices along? So the credit for up to $5,000 a unit is now distinguished separately between single family and multifamily. Single family is relatively straightforward. It includes townhomes and duplexes. It's $2,500 per certification by each program. So the Energy Star program and the Zero Energy Ready home are $2,500 each. Energy Star program is a prerequisite for Zero Energy Ready. So if you're going to go after Zero Energy Ready home, you're going to follow the Energy Star requirements along the way, and you just go a little bit. We'll explain the differences for that. So you look out for multifamily. The base credit for multifamily is $500 if prevailing wage is not met. If prevailing wage is met, it goes equal to single family home, where it's $2,500 per week. The same thing applies for this one. It's $500 basically, which would be $1,000 for an additional $2,500 via $5,000. We'll talk for a second about prevailing wage to give you the high level overview, but prevailing wage is only going to apply to multifamily. And it's not, well, we'll talk to that in a moment, but it is only prevailing wage and not the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirement. So that's just a differentiator. Some people get those things confused. 45L is going to focus on the wage. So let's talk about some of the other limitations. Multifamily is no longer limited to 3 stories above grade. So the change to Energy Star and the ZER program opened up to mid and high rise projects. There's also some additional ways to calculate the energy saving requirements under Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready home that were not available to 45L. And essentially that just means a different way of modeling the entire building versus a unit, which opened the door for the high rise sector for 45L eligible. The other addition is sleeping units like dormitories were now added to 45L. In the past, that was dwelling units only, and the differentiator between sleeping and dwelling units would be the existence of a kitchen or eating facility on property. So sleeping units are now eligible for 45L. And we talked about the energy saving requirements are now the Energy Star program and the Zero Energy Ready home. It's worth noting that I kind of made a point of talking about the early program hadn't changed for the life of 45L. So the 2006 standard for energy, or for the 45L program, for the threshold for energy savings had been consistent through the life of 45L. Introducing Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready home programs essentially makes the target a moving target. So every year, Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready home programs are improving their programs as technology improves, or as methodology improves to improve energy efficient construction. So that's now a more aggressive target, which is in line with their increased incentive for the credit. Let's talk prevailing wage. Prevailing wage, we mentioned this, it's prevailing wage only. Apprenticeship requirement is not applicable. The IRA brought this additional qualification to 45L and many other programs as well. So it's worth noting that prevailing wage is going to be the incentives, but 45L is prevailing wage, multi-family projects. And so this is having we apply for the construction or renovation, contractors, subcontractors, anybody working on the physical layer on the construction of and the wages have to be not less than the wage determination by the Department of Justice that their labor website and think of what's required to meet prevailing wage. Generally, it is going to be determining that the wage paid and benefits were at the Department of Labor's recommendation. Things like payroll records reflected for each classification, which actually somehow covers the actual wages and fringe benefits paid along the way. And so I will tell you, if you're familiar with HUD financing or other maybe government or federally owned buildings, if you ever worked construction on those, there was always a requirement similar to meeting prevailing wage that is essentially the same. People refer to this as the Davis-Bacon wage, or we've heard it called a few different things, but essentially that's all one and the same requirement. The taxpayer is required to maintain the records, and I'll state that the penalties for misrepresentation are significant. So it's worth investigating this in the front end to ensure that you have prevailing wage on your plan for your construction and building of your project. If you were doing failing to meet the prevailing wage requirements and claiming that you did, the penalty is more significant than the benefit. So we don't take this too lightly. We want to make sure we stress the understanding that prevailing wage is a factor for multifamily, but it's attainable, and the amounts are there posted on a regular basis on the Department of Labor website, and it's worth educating yourself to know what it is in your area. It is different by county, so every county across the country has a wage determination, and if you haven't checked to know yours, don't assume they're out of reach. All right, so let's jump to polling question 2. Mark, if you post that, it looks like you have. This is, do the 45L program changes negatively affect 45L ability? So this is kind of a gut check. Do you feel like the changes that we talked about, Energy Star program and Zero Energy Ready Home program, does that stop or prevent the availability of credits for yourself or your client? Just interested to get your folks' take on this. Then we'll give you half a second here. Answer the question. Excellent. So they're still rolling in. We'll leave that polling question up for a few more half minutes here, but I'm going to jump on the next slide. I will say I'm happy to see that the majority is saying no on that. The perception is generally the opposite, that these program changes are unattainable. And once you get in, when you get a better understanding, obviously it is that itself, but we generally feel these people always the work and the requirements for them. All right, I got 2 more seconds there, and question is close. So it looks like it came in about 60% no and 30% on yes, and a couple's not sure. So I'm glad to get the input. I think we'll expand a little bit more here on the programs so you understand what they are. That's kind of a precursor to what we're going to get into. So let's talk Energy Star program. Most of y'all are probably familiar with Energy Star. I put that little yellow sticker on there that we're all probably familiar with, that comes on your washer or dryer or other kitchen appliance that would be having the Energy Star sticker. And that's where I would say brand recognition for Energy Star is widely understood and known. But it is available for not only products, but homes and commercial buildings. Industrial plants have an Energy Star guidance and programs that kind of grade the efficiency of the facility and not just the product. But if you think, if you understand how the Energy Star guidelines work for your washing machine, it gives you that gauge of annual operating cost estimated based on the performance of the product. The same idea is what they're applying, we apply to the homes when we evaluate home. Is it more or less energy efficient than the average, right? So the same thing applies. It's just a little different. You don't get the same yellow sticker. You would get a blue sticker certifying Energy Star compliance, but the same idea. Well, I'll say there's a brand recognition in Energy Star. Most people know the yellow sticker. but it carries some weight when you're talking Energy Star. And what it's worth noting is if you build certified Energy Star homes or properties, Energy Star and the EPA allow you access to their marketing platform. You partner with Energy Star when you start to build certified homes. You can advertise as an Energy Star builder, which in some areas of the country, that may be a differentiator that you can take to the market. The other parts to note is the program's changed. Throughout the year, Energy Stars puts out revisions to clarify and improve the understanding of the program. And then every year, they are putting out enhancements to the program. And then those programs get adopted by 45L. You do have a little bit of time, so they're usually 2 to 3 years out where the latest program isn't going to be adopted. But it does change the game to where you're building to the newest and greatest energy efficiencies.
So what I'll say to the location you're building and the permit determine the program a lot. And you can look, we're in our zone of basic requirement Star, but there's very different that I work exploring in construction of insert. Slide. So this is the graphic that says the story for Energy Star. The Energy Star's position is that certified homes are 10% more efficient than an own built go, and they're 20% better on average than a typical home.
So that's telling you where the threshold has changed a little. So what we were used to comparing against the 2006 standard, the Energy Star program is looking at the average home in the last 3 years to be about 10% more energy efficient than that home. And it's worth noting that building to code doesn't mean building to Energy Star. So code across the country varies greatly. The Energy Star program takes into account local code and local requirements, but essentially it's going to be looking for a minimum threshold. And if the local code trumps the Energy Star standard for your area, the local code is going to apply. But if not, Energy Star is going to apply for 45L. So in many cases in the country, the code may be lower than the standard for energy. And so some of the requirements of the Energy Star program are that the builder or the developer, so it's a one or the other. The developer is the one eligible for the credit, but the builder, general contractor, or developer needs to partner with Energy Star if they're going to build certified Energy Star programs. Again, I mentioned before, when you partner, once you certify properties, it allows you access to their marketing plan. There's no cost. This is just a written agreement, and once executed and once you built homes to the standard, you'll be placed on their website as a partner, and then you have the ability to kind of leverage that as you see fit. There is a requirement for credentialed or qualified HVAC professionals or functional testing agents. So there's a requirement that your mechanical systems group has also been qualified to install the mechanical systems properly and do some designs of the system properly to ensure that you are going to have an energy efficient home. And there's a qualified energy rater partnership, and they have to be partnered with an oversight. So what you're hearing is there's partnerships, there's alignment in requirements with training and credentialing, and there's oversight. So there's oversight organizations affiliated with HVAC professionals and with the rater. So they've added some additional layers of validation into the program requirement. So the things what does that mean? What is changing for Energy Star? What are the things you actually see? It today, this looks like insulation. In the proper installation, installation. It talks about how well you are installing the installation properly, so which will affect how well it works. That becomes generally a comfort thing for the inhabitants, but it is then determined advanced rating. That's the technique where we are
using, not overdoing, framing on construction. We're using with, and not leaving blind or dead corners or spaces where we are allowing for proper. So when we talk about our friend State Energy Star and Poly Energy Star, it's very difficult to adjust advanced framing or sealed crawl spaces after the fact. It's things you want to be considering on the air balancing, ventilation, generally the things you think of building a tight home. So you're building a home that you can control the airflow, you can control the temperature, you can control the performance of that home, and will make it more energy efficient with those. You have to vent things to the outside. Kitchen range, vent to the outside. There's some hard line must-haves for Energy Star program. That's some examples of them. Now, this isn't all, but it covers some bases of a couple things that may be more significant to the Energy Star program that differ from local code. And all of these things on this list require, which we'll talk to in a sec toward the end, but inspecting insulation is a requirement, and it's got to be done on the property. So it makes it very difficult if you've already drywalled up your property to perform the proper inspections for framing and/or. So again, leading to the partnership to provide Energy Star certification. Let's talk about the Zero Energy Ready Home Program. So yeah, this one's I mentioned administered by DOE. It's the second level credit for 45L. And it's been under some constant change. Energy Star as well. Once they tied to the 45L program, they've really started to improve their availability of their program rules that are available online. Because it's tied to 45L is going to make those information needs to be more available. But as part of those changes, Zero Energy Ready Home Program in 2024, homes permitted before 2024, so this was just in 23, were limited to 5 stories. After 2023, it opened up to any height. This is a manner of programs catching up with the regulation change. But the program requirements do change. They go under continuous change. And just like Energy Star, the location and permit date of your construction is going to determine when the program, similar to Energy Star. And so we talked Energy Star is 10% more efficient than your average home. Zero Energy Ready Home programs are that by growing it an additional 10%. So it's going to step up the requirements of your construction. It's going to require solar ready. Doesn't mean solar installed immediately. Remember, this is the Zero Energy Ready Home Program. So we're preparing the home for energy generation. But it's not required that. But the building will going to upgrade a bit. This is going to step up the next code standard over Energy Star in terms of the grade of insulation and for your region. It's to set it up. And then are required being Energy Star appliances across the board. Energy Star doesn't require Energy Star appliances across the board, just a few appliances, which will change in the future years for Energy Star. But like I said, Zero Energy Ready is just going to be one step to where ventilation and ceiling fans and things of that nature are all going to have to be Energy Star rated. And a hot water delivery system. So these were noteworthy to mention because they're a little different than the norm. The appliances, very straightforward. Ducts and conditioned space, straightforward. Hot water delivery systems, kind of a snag for Zero Energy Ready Home. It talks about efficiently placing your hot water delivery device, whether it's a tank or tankless system, and where the hot water is delivered. It has limits on the length of runs for your, again, going at efficiency. So central location, minimal length delivery of hot water to improve the performance of the home or the energy efficiency. Let's look at, very simply,
kind of the summary, right? So of the credits, this is just a visual to throw out at you, just so you're seeing the benefit by group. Prevailing wage is that final column, which is going to match to the single family. But this is essentially the benefit for each program, just shown in maybe a little prettier version for you. But it was a intro into our next polling question. So I gave you some softball questions up front, but let's put up polling question number 3. And so the question is, what aspects of the 45L program would be most beneficial? So this is things like, is the credit value most appealing, or just the fact that we're leveraging some additional energy incentives in construction, that we are advancing energy efficient construction? Is that the benefit for you?
Dave, I was going to chime in just for 1 second, where it seems like the platform may have been a little glitchy today, because 2 of the questions ended up in the answer to the problem inadvertently. So I want to make sure that we got these addressed, not to put you on the spot with the full questions. But one of them was, if a building is a personal residence and included an accessory dwelling unit, which was a basement that had its own access and address, could you take advantage of 45L separately for both the resident and the...
Sorry, I was coming back and forth to see about it. This whole question didn't have the proper answer. If she was around an ADU and its qualification for 45L independently.
Yeah, sorry about that. Because more, could you qualify, if it was a personal residence with a basement dwelling unit, separate address, could both the dwelling unit and the basement qualify separately, or would it be considered one?
Generally, ADUs are acceptable. The construction of the basement unit would potentially bring that out, where it may not be considered single family. Depending on how that is laid out, it's generally still applicable, and an ADU is available for 45L independently. The construction of which is going to be relevant as well. And was there another one to throw up there? You said there were a few.
Yeah, it was in the answer to column if you're looking at it. But here was the question. In practice, on the ground, what trips a significant remodel to yellow? Is it 80%, dollars to total spend, load bearing, observed, altered? What were some of the triggers?
Yeah, I would say the biggest trigger is whether you're going to studs, meaning if you're getting into the building envelope. Most buildings that are going to be significant remodel, if you're not impacting the shell or the building envelope, you won't have a chance, because you'll be stuck with whatever the construction standard was, if it's unknown, inside the wall cavity, and you'll never qualify if you are not re-insulating. So in some cases, you're able to do some exterior continuous insulation to kind of boost it. But if you're not getting to that level on a remodel, it's very difficult to pull. Generally, the building envelope is the easiest way I can answer that one.
Yeah. And the last question, I mean, you're probably going to go into this in the last section of the webinar today, but was, how do y'all get your ratings? In-house, hired out, third party?
Sure. We'll jump into that, but there's a third party requirement for inspections and ratings, and that third party has to work under an MRO, just essentially an oversight program. The oversight team is the one that issues the certification. The ones that do the rating are the third party qualified individuals like us or other firms that do similar. They will do the inspections, we do the modeling, and we submit to third party oversight for validation of adherence to the program requirement and certification. Sure. So let's talk a little bit. So we'll kind of recap and talk about each partnering. So that's when we talked about the changes and challenges for 45L. This is one of the bigger mindset change. Is that we need to be thinking of 45L at the beginning.
So you need support. You want help. called an approach set, right? The idea is these are plans evaluating some of those things we threw out there um, as requirements for the program, um, uh, specifically building outlook insulation, products or base screening, and slab installation. It's nearly impossible to accommodate those if you are past that in the building construction stage. So if your plans are looked at by all and evaluated with energy provider, right?
Back before you is the plan you're proposing drawing or proposing building eligible just by the construction? That's important because you can't make it if you intend to pursue 45L. Very difficult to retroactively make those changes if you've already started frame, and it becomes so partner early, and think of the property evaluation starts at the designs. So we look at the design, is the mechanical system adequate, is the design qualified, all the things you want to know on the front end. And then there's the inspections. So if we're set up for success, the inspections are going to help you stay on the path of success. There are multiple inspections required now for 45. Pre-drywall and final. It used to be final only. Pre-drywall is an important inspection. And if that is done well and in partnership with the developer, you can trade out any non-conformance issues that are identified and correct them before moving on to ensure performance is ensure adherence to the performance standard. The drivers, when I talk about the inspection, for those of you that are in the industry or understand what this means, that the thermal enclosures are some of the biggest points, air barriers, specifically even looking at thermal bridging. Those are all some of the aspects that get picked up in the pre-drywall inspection, which also drive the performance of the end unit, or of the structure. So if those things are designed properly, aren't inspected on the front ends, you don't really stand a chance of qualifying on the front end, and you don't want to go through that whole process with the expectation that you're going to be receiving a credit for 45L, only to find out that toward the end that because you skipped the pre-drywall inspection, you weren't able to do. Because it's just unreasonable to think you could redo a pre-drywall inspection after you closed it up. It would require the removal of all drywall on exterior surface. So the key takeaway is partner for success, right? So partner with your developer, your rater, your mechanical contractor, and then their adherence to the Energy Star program and the Zero Energy Ready Home program can translate into success or adherence to 45L and generating tax credits for 45L.
So let's recap a little bit here. Increased opportunity, $5,000 per unit map, exchange game. And I'd say that kind of casually, but I think the conversations, Bill, you asked the question earlier, why are folks doing this? Why are more people doing this? Even folks in the industry, in your field, $15 credit, things have obviously changed the value of $5,000 today versus years ago, but the $2,000 credit didn't necessarily incentivize folks to change practice. It wasn't enough there to look at a different mechanical system. It didn't cover any of those. It didn't make it more reasonable to build to energy codes that weren't required in your area. So the increased opportunity changes the game a bit. It gives you an opportunity to capitalize on those changes and do a more energy efficient. The other big change that we see is a huge adherence or a huge positive for most folks in the industry is the limit to 3-story. I talked briefly, but like mid-rise, high-rise had always been other pro that had been 179D. And now you could do those together. If you're building a 4-story or greater multifamily project,
you pursue 45L, you can also take advantage of the 170. And the interplay isn't there because we're looking at different performance measurement. You can do both. Additional qualification paths are available. What this means is high-rise buildings or any multifamily building, you can use an ASHRAE path qualification. That was never available before. That's essentially a whole building analysis, looking at the performance of the building. It's a way that made multifamily, high-rise, and mid-rise projects viable for 45L. But that's a huge plus. Gave you more options for qualification. Energy Star and the Zero Energy certifications, they're more difficult. So if we didn't quite hit that well enough on talk through the requirements, we're seeing it's more difficult. The standard moved a bit, but they're incentivized, and then the incentive increased. But retroactive certification for the program is next to it. It's very difficult, as mentioned, to look at advanced framing or inspect for installation after you've already closed up the project or closed up the home. So if we didn't mention it enough times, the takeaway is get started sooner with your partnership or with your partners to look at evaluating in the design state. And we get after the fact is next to impossible. We didn't get into this on the
earlier slide, but 45L and the low income housing tax credit were LIA conflict result. I said essentially you don't have crazy basis for the low income tax credit act. So they used to be restricted in low income housing community development. But it's not attainable in that. Now they put that together, so you can look at appreciating. And further, so we talked for everything we did. We game really get the highlights. We this, but it's multi-bad.
So it isn't to be thought of after the fact. This is another thing you want to think of on the front end. This is very likely something you want to work into your contracts. If you plan on pursuing 45L, your contracts with your subs and for subcontractors to adhere to prevailing wage in order to stay in line with those requirements and meet 45L to maximize your benefit. Additionally, mindset change. This is the idea of building for 45L, building for Energy Star, building an energy efficient home. So your typical home built to code may not qualify for 45L. If you asked me that question 2 years ago, before the IRA came into play, I would have had a different answer. Most homes in 2022 and prior, if you were built to a current standard, IECC 2018, 2015 in a lot of cases, if you were built to a reasonable code, you could qualify. Energy Star as the prereq for Zero Energy 2, but both program, they've changed that a bit. Now, building across the country, building codes or the enforcement of building codes is also kind of in flux and changing quite a bit as well to kind of keep up with times and increase the requirements for local construction. But Energy Star is going to continue to try and be ahead of it. And the mindset changes, are we building an energy efficient? You can market that to your client. It becomes a cost of operation, cost of ownership, value proposition. So if you're building a more energy efficient home, the cost of ownership is less. That would translate to less or just a more efficient home performance, more comfort, and a lower cost to operate. So that is part of the shift that is coming along with 40. Sleeping units are eligible. So that's quite a change. to have supportive housing, dormitories, non-senior assisted living. So assisted living facilities don't qualify, but if they are senior living facilities, those are acceptable. That may not have all of the requirements to meet the dwelling unit rules. And now you can qualify for $45 a sitting unit.
And I mentioned this trifecta. We've seen this trifecta being kind of popular with folks that are looking at high-rise or even mid-rise construction. So we're not only talking for cost aggregation, it becomes their value proposition with incentive for building energy and cost aggregation isn't out of your right because of your engineering to be able to all that properly a little different to where the value proposition for this trifecta works well for y'all. Partnership comes with perks. So we mentioned that you can use marketing collateral for Energy Star or Zero Energy Ready when you are partners and building to their standards. So don't underestimate that value. It comes with the perk of being able to market on their websites and yourself or on your own website. So I think that about wraps. I think we have a final question to keep up with our Mark. If you could pop that one up there for the final.
And I think the poll button actually up already. Excellent.
All right, beat me to it.
So there was one comment that I wanted to chime in on and apologize for. David, I didn't want to derail you, but your audio was going in between perfect and you sounding like some type of demon in a movie. So Mark and I talked about it behind the scenes. We were going to stop you, but neither of us knew how to fix the problem. So we didn't know that I was actually going to accomplish anything. So I think the information was all displayed very well. Apologize to anybody on this. Thanks everybody for coming out. We've got about 2 minutes left. If there were any other questions in the Q&A or anything that you want to add, if not, feel free to reach out to Dave. Feel free to reach out to myself. I'll happy to answer any questions that you may. But thanks everyone.